Good morning, Bioneers. My name is Maya Salsedo, and I am the Rooted in Community youth organizer. I want to tell you a little bit about my story, my journey, and it starts with seeds, as do most. I grew up in Santa Cruz, California, which is, oh, Santa Cruz in the house? Yeah, awesome. I always know when I come here, I'm going to see some Santa Cruz folks, and I always come here and I recognize people's outfits. I'm like, oh, are you from Santa Cruz? Maybe not. But with that said, Santa Cruz is a community known for its hippies and yuppies alike who enjoy good food culture, surfing, and general environmental friendliness. But what goes often unsaid in that community is that those are all activities that often have entry costs and cultural markers that make those activities hard to access for communities of color and low-income people. I grew up in a family that had a hard time accessing many of the joys that come with growing up in a beautiful town like Santa Cruz. I grew up in a single-parent household in Santa Cruz. My mother, she was a chef at a restaurant, and my clicker is not working. Let's see. She was a chef at a restaurant in Santa Cruz, and it was a farm-to-table restaurant. And this is before I even knew what farm-to-table was. There was a garden in the back, and I remember as a kid spending time in the garden there. And my mom would be cooking food for people that was incredibly fresh during the day, just out the garden. And then we would come home, and oftentimes on the way home stop at a fast food restaurant or eat cup of noodles or top ramen. And in an environment where foods that aren't healthy are publicly decried, having a diet that has a lot of unhealthy foods in it brought about a lot of shame to my life. And it wasn't until I joined Food What? Food What? I joined Food What in 2007, which is a youth empowerment program that uses sustainable agriculture to teach youth job skills, to empower youth, and to awaken social justice in youth. And there we did a game called Fast Food Jeopardy. And I learned about the role that corporations play in our food system, and I came to understand that the way that our current food system is, my mom really wasn't in control so much of what we were eating, and that we were at the hands of these corporations. I realized that really the only people that should be ashamed of the diet that I had were the people who were putting this food on my plate, these corporations who control our food system through advertising, through monopolies, and through government subsidies. At Food What, I went through the program as a youth, and I then became a junior staff, where I practiced a little bit more mentoring of youth and peers. And in 2008, I had the opportunity to work with other youth from the Bay Area to host the Rooted in Community National Conference. When we hosted that conference, I had an opportunity to step up and engage my organizing on a more national level. We had youth from across the country there, and I rose to the occasion, and because of that, I was offered a job as the first ever Rooted in Community youth organizer. Rooted in Community is a national grassroots network that empowers young people from historically excluded communities and low-income communities to take leadership in food justice. We are the only national network explicitly working with youth from low-income communities and communities of color to transform our food system through sustainable agriculture, youth leadership, and training up the next generation of leaders. We're also empowering adult allies to do culturally sensitive trainings so that we can build stronger cross-cultural organizing. RIC represents over 100 organizations located across the country from Hawaii to Maine. We represent 10,000 teens and adults working together for food sovereignty and social justice. RIC empowers network members through offering curriculum, www.toolshed.org. And we support the coordination of regional gatherings and the networking of regional youth who are working on towards food justice. As a multicultural organization, we provide safe spaces for dialogue and healing around historical, racial, and cultural, around historical, racial, and economic oppression. Our mission is to be a vehicle for youth voice and power in the food movement, and to build capacity so that youth themselves can generate change and healing for their communities and for their bodies. Since working with Rooted in Community, I've had some incredible opportunities to learn and grow. In 2008, for example, I got to grace this stage with Michael Pollan and youth from New Orleans. They're called the Rethinkers. These youth have done tremendous work around youth-led research to change policies in the New Orleans schools. And I had an opportunity to build with them and Michael Pollan on a panel about youth leadership here at Bioneers. I've also had countless opportunities to network at conferences, to learn from some of my heroes, and to witness the power of our movement. And a great example of that would be yesterday. I led a training for 40 youth as part of the Just Us for Food Justice pre-conference day for Bioneers. And I left that training, I got to that training a little bit stressed out. And I left the training feeling full and fulfilled and inspired and in awe and in feeling more grounded in my service to the youth that I represent on stage today. The work that they did was amazing, and I invite you all to check out the youth tent this week to see some of the artwork that was created and that will be continued to be created throughout the conference in the youth tent. I think what makes Rooted in Community unique, what makes us so mighty, is that we work hard together, but that we play hard together too. Activism's difficult work, right? But it's really fun and rewarding. So one of the tools that we use is creative expression to awaken and to inspire and activate youth through hip hop, theater, music, poetry, visual arts, performance. And this is educational and it's unifying. In 2011, Rooted in Community Youth created the Youth Food Bill of Rights, which is a living document, a tool. These youth looked at the Farm Bill and saw how their communities weren't represented. They saw how their communities were undermined by the Farm Bill and how they were disempowered. And they wanted to make a change, so they made a bill that aligns rights, or outlines rights from the rights of farm workers in the field to the rights of animals who are in factory farms, the rights to waste, to deal with our food waste properly and compost in urban areas, and the rights to, for example, save our seeds, or the rights to know what's in our food. So, with support, the Youth Food Bill of Rights, this ever-evolving and changing document, it can continue to make incredible impacts. Through firsthand experience and through connections to global ecological and food movements, we, the youth, are well aware of the increasing importance of the work that we do. In other words, we understand the task at hand is tremendous. And we're looking for dynamic partnerships that will allow us to fully explore the Youth Food Bill of Rights' capacity to create political change and cultural change. We look to build the capacity of the Youth Food Bill of Rights to shift culture towards foodways, which nourish the entire ecosystem. And yes, that means us people too. It's clear that sustainability of the environment rests in the training up of youth that come from these historically affected communities. This is where the driving force of our evolving movement lies. In the hearts and minds of young people of color who recognize that the same forces which oppress them are the very same forces which destroy our environment. And every day, More and more of us are realizing this, that the liberation of underserved communities is the liberation of our planet from exploitations of patriarchy, global capitalism, and imperialism. I want to invite all of the youth to stand up. In order for our movement, youth, please stand up, to converge among all of our diversity of task and means, we must engage youth in new and growing ways. We would like to tell you that the youth are ready to be on advisory councils and direct steering committees and boards of all of the organizations represented in this room. We're ready. I've seen the power of youth, and I believe that youth can stitch together the richness of our movements. And as only a former Rooted in Community Conference attendee can tell you, we are powerful. We are marginalized and allied. We are many. We are the food justice movement. And as the Youth Food Bill of Rights so eloquently says, we are the youth. Thank you.